ensuring that with a number of European member states who are committed to supporting this mobilization of special drawing rights, that we've decided to continue our efforts to seeking an institutional way forward. What we wanted to do first and foremost is to maintain the momentum on this, then mobilizing around a number of projects in line with Africa's priorities to support development, innovation, and prosperity in climate, in digital, and in infrastructure. And another key element in which we believe there is a shared determination, we see that in the past there were strong, well-meaning intentions in a spirit of generosity, but what we achieve in practice doesn't always live up to that. That is why we have decided to put in place a follow-up mechanism, a monitoring mechanism, of course working on the basis of our two commissions, but with the political leadership from the African Union and the European Union, mobilizing also the private sector and civil society, the Africa-Europe Foundation in particular, to ensure that we really can take stock of what is happening, what projects are moving forward well, which ones are becoming practical, tangible realities, already those which need further stimulation. And I would say in the few hours between yesterday and today in Brussels, there is really a new spirit, a new ambitious spirit, which I think will be the key to this new successful relationship between Europe and Africa. Thank you again to all of those who have contributed to making this a real political success, and then to making sure that we will achieve tangible results for the benefit of our populations. Thank you, Mr. President. Let me give the floor to President Macky Sall of Senegal.
Bonjour à tous.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. Now, as we come to the end of this EU-AU summit, I would just like to thank our European partners for their warm welcome and for the way in which they've organized our work. As Charles Michel said, this was a new kind of summit because of the preparations, the consultations which started several months ago with President Macron, the two commissions, the African Union and the European Union, and this enabled us to work on this upstream and identify our common priorities and come up with commitments together. We now have a historic opportunity to look at the basis of a new kind of partnership, a renewed partnership we want to build together. And there are two aspects which I think we need to take into account in order to achieve this. First of all, we have to mobilize the means needed to meet our commitments, in particular on the question of the reallocation of the special drawing rights. A great deal of work was done yesterday and also today with President Macron. We have worked together with all partners in order to put this commitment into practice. Production of vaccines in Africa. This morning, we were witnesses to an exceptional ceremony where the EU said it was prepared to transfer technology for the messenger RNA technology. 5 or 6 African countries were selected as hubs: South Africa, Kenya, Egypt, Tunisia, Senegal, and Nigeria. So initially they will be benefiting from this technology and training and all the regulatory environment that's needed for this kind of process. The only issue we have to look at is intellectual property rights. And here we have drawn certain conclusions which are encouraging, and we hope that over the next few months, by this spring, we should be able to come up with a dynamic compromise which will drive this topic forward. In particular, we welcome the European Initiative for Financing Infrastructures, Global Gateway. This is 550 billion to be mobilized with the facility, and this will constitute significant progress and build bridges between our two continents. We have to create a new working environment which is better adjusted to the political will we want to see. We need, I think, to give a boost to our dynamics. I was saying yesterday that we needed a new relationship software based on a shared vision of partnership rather than aid. And in this way, we can move towards shared prosperity and growth. Europe and Africa have resources which the other party needs, and it makes sense to pool our resources and our means and to benefit from this mutually. And in that way, our partnership will be a real give and take situation. Once again, it's important to ensure that young people and women remain at the very heart of our agenda. I would like to call on mobilization here to support the Rays of Hope initiative from the International Atomic Agency for combating cancer, in particular cancer in women. You know, in half of African countries we don't have any radiotherapy facilities, and the idea of this project is to ensure that all countries have radiotherapy to combat cancer. Thank you very much for your attention.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je passe la parole au président de la République.
Mr. President, let me give the floor to the President of France. Thank you very much.
Madame la Présidente, Messieurs les Présidents, Mesdames, Messieurs, le Président Michel à l'instant vient, je crois, d'expliquer et de dire parfaitement l'état d'esprit, la méthode et dans la durée le changement profond d'approche que nous faisons dans la relation entre l'Union africaine et l'Union européenne et nos deux continents. Cet esprit de co-construction, des conclusions très politique, des projets et une liste de projets très précise et un suivi dans la durée de manière partenariale. Je voudrais juste revenir sur très rapidement quelques thématiques. La première, c'est évidemment le défi sanitaire. Je voulais remercier le président Macky Sall d'avoir un instant insisté sur justement l'agenda de la santé au-delà de l'épidémie de Covid-19. Je crois que notre responsabilité, c'est dans ce partenariat de savoir d'ailleurs préparer d'ores et déjà l'avenir, de travailler sur les autres pandémies, les autres virus, mais également sur les sujets de santé publique. Le cancer, vous l'avez évoqué, et c'est un point sur lequel notre aide va continuer à se concentrer. Nous avons pris l'engagement de livrer 450 millions de doses aux pays africains, qui s'ajouteront aux livraisons COVAX d'ici à l'été 2022. Nous avons aussi pris une initiative conjointe avec l'UNICEF, qui est un élément très structurant pour permettre cette vaccination. Et je crois que ce sommet a permis d'avancer sur plusieurs autres points. Le premier, de concrétiser ce qu'on avait lancé au printemps dernier, pour créer des hubs régionaux de vaccins ARN messagers sur le continent africain. C'est 6 hubs que vient d'évoquer le président, donc je n'y reviendrai pas. Ensuite, on a mis en place une initiative avec en particulier la BEI et l'Allemagne pour définir un paquet d'investissements qui pourra atteindre 550 millions d'euros destinés à la banque Afrique Bank, qui permettra justement au cadre d'achat de vaccins africains d'intervenir en pleine souveraineté. Donc, on met des briques maintenant de financement de souveraineté vaccinale et sanitaire. Et nous avons avancé avec la perspective au printemps d'une finalisation entre les deux commissions pour trouver un cadre sur la propriété intellectuelle et une copie commune devant à la fois l'Organisation mondiale de la santé et du commerce. Je pense qu'on a beaucoup progressé ces derniers mois sur le sujet sanitaire et nos engagements conjoints. Deuxième point en termes de croissance, les deux présidents y sont revenus. Nous avons aujourd'hui à faire face à un défi immense en Afrique, qui est la sortie de l'épidémie de Covid, alors même qu'il y a une jeunesse qui est une chance mais qui arrive sur le marché, qu'il faut former
huge numbers of young people arriving on the labor market. This is a great opportunity, but also a huge challenge. And at the same time, we have the challenge of the environmental transition. As regards funding African economies, work still needs to continue on this. In terms of our commitment to reallocate 20% of special drawing rights so that we can achieve this goal of 100 billion for the poorest countries and 100 billion for Africa. In this respect, different techniques may be used. Some will reallocate special drawing rights, others will have lending mechanisms, but we will reach this goal. Then we have worked on how to consolidate, how to provide budgetary support for African economies, but also in conjunction with regional banks to create funding mechanisms adapted to each sector.
L'Union européenne est très engagée, les montants ont été rappelés par le président, je pense que la présidente y reviendra, mais très clairement l'Union européenne a vocation à devenir et veut être le partenaire de référence de l'Afrique pour le financement de ses infrastructures. Pour le faire de manière exemplaire en termes justement de transition climatique, en termes industriels, en termes de qualité, en termes de qualité des financements et de la soutenabilité de ces financements. Et plusieurs de ces grands projets ont été identifiés et on a une première liste de corridors stratégiques identifiés en lien avec l'Union africaine, avec une liste de projets qui viennent compléter nos déclarations d'aujourd'hui. Nous avons également amorcé une démarche pour que l'Union européenne soit en mesure d'accompagner le financement de la transition énergétique des pays africains. Et au fond, sur le modèle de ce que nous avons parachevé il y a quelques mois avec l'Afrique du Sud, eh bien, avec le Sénégal, l'Égypte, la Côte d'Ivoire, pouvoir construire d'ici à la COP27 plusieurs autres exemples de financement agrégé, de stratégie justement et puis dans ce choc d'investissement des économies africaines, il y a deux autres remarques, trois autres remarques rapides que je voulais faire. La première, on doit accompagner l'Afrique sur son modèle agricole. Je veux ici rappeler l'importance pour nous de la Grande Muraille Verte,
in terms of its agricultural model. I'm talking here about the Great Green Wall, which is an African initiative activated since 2021. We've mobilized almost $13 billion international investment. And these synergies in terms of shared sovereignty between Africa and Europe, 1 year ago or so, put in place a protein sovereignty strategy, and Africa has done the same now with the Green Wall. We still have a lot of work to do in this respect. Secondly, supporting African entrepreneurship. We did that 2 days ago. And thirdly, in terms of infrastructure and economic development, I would stress the importance of the European constellation put in place by the European Commission 3 days ago, which I supported in Toulouse in the middle of the week, which is a Euro-African constellation. So for the first time, Europe will have a constellation, which we haven't had up to now, but it is especially a north-south one, which will enable us to cover a lower orbit, not just Europe, but also the whole African continent. That will be a huge role in terms of economic development. Then mobility and migration going very quickly.
Justement sous leur impulsion d'identifier des centres de formation africains. Nous avons acté de financer justement des centres de formation pour permettre de former aux métiers qui correspondent à ce développement économique que j'évoquais. Et puis nous avons abordé la question de l'immigration illégale dans ces deux volets, l'amélioration de notre coopération pour lutter contre les trafiquants et les routes d'arrivée de l'immigration illégale et améliorer les règles de retour justement vers le pays d'origine pour toutes celles et ceux qui sont déposés sur le sol européen. Enfin, le dernier enjeu sur lequel je souhaitais insister, c'est celui de la sécurité et de la lutte contre le terrorisme sur le continent africain, qui n'est pas seulement un enjeu au Sahel, que nous avons évoqué hier, mais également dans la Corne de l'Afrique, en Afrique centrale, qui touche aujourd'hui tout le continent. Et on voit le défi qui est le nôtre. Le président Faki y revenait d'ailleurs hier soir. Je veux ici juste dire que nous avons d'abord consolidé une approche partenariale où sur la base des demandes et des besoins exprimés par les pays africains, l'Europe a montré sa disponibilité et sa volonté de financer des opérations, de la formation, du financement d'équipements et de l'accompagnement. Sur le mode remarquable, ce qui a été
terms of what has been achieved by Rwanda in Mozambique, along the same lines, an operation which we want to accompany and want to accompany it all the way, which shows that African countries are capable of organizing their own resources in the case of regional grouping SADC, where in this case where Europe would be an accompanying partner. And then secondly, before and during this summit, we have been working on completing work in terms of maritime security. This is another key example of our exemplary cooperation. We support the request from the African countries with respect to the UN to have a new mechanism which could be funded by the UN, which would enable African militaries to stabilize the situation, to combat terrorism, or to engage in peacekeeping. So these are some of the key points I wanted to highlight. I would just like to thank in particular all the delegations and in particular the presidents who are on either side of me. They've made a huge contribution to this summit. We face a huge challenge, and I think we will meet this challenge because we're fully mobilized.
Madam President, you have the floor.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We had a summit indeed that was, I would say, packed and productive. It was a very good summit. And we could see that as Africa sets sail on the future, the European Union wants to be Africa's partner of choice. This is basically the summary of this summit. And for this, indeed, we need a stronger partnership between us. So what does it mean concretely? It means remaining an economic partner you can trust. And the European Union is the first trading partner and the first investor in Africa. And therefore, it is no coincidence that the first regional plan under our big investment strategy, Global Gateway, is the Africa-Europe plan with more than 150 billion euros of investment. And indeed, we have together developed very clear objectives we want to invest in. There is the big topic of the green transition, of course, the renewables. I had several talks with partners who immediately want to engage on the main topic of green hydrogen. There is transport networks. The connectivity within the continent is crucial for the free trade area to function. Digital connections, the satellite idea has been mentioned, but also sustainable agriculture, healthcare, and most importantly, education. Now, what is important is these priorities, we defined them together, and now we want to work together on them. We want to deliver. And the first series of major projects have already been presented today. The second point that is important for me is to emphasize that a stronger partnership means stepping up our joint fight against climate change. We want to see green partnerships like the ones we have with South Africa or Morocco flourish across the continent. Because climate action is the challenge of our generation, has been a big topic on this summit. And yet, there lie also great opportunities for the next generation if we act now. Africa is rich in renewable power. If you look at hydropower, solar power, wind power. And Africa is rich in nature, with 1/4 of the world's biodiversity, 1/4. So to end climate change, the world needs Africa. Yet the transition to clean energy will be a process for economies that rely heavily on coal, be it in Africa or be it in Europe. But we are both determined. And I'm very much looking forward to Egypt hosting COP27 this year. And finally, from the health of our planet to the health of our people, Europe is Africa's #1 partner in the fight against COVID-19, and we will do even more. We are on the right track to reach our goal to share at least 450 million vaccine doses by this summer. And indeed, together we are building up mRNA manufacturing capacity across Africa. I will not go in detail because we have discussed that in the press conference this morning. But important is we had a very good, intense, constructive discussion on the question of TRIPS waiver and compulsory licensing. We share the same goal. We have different ways to reach that goal. There must be a bridge between those two ways. And therefore, we have decided that the two commissions, the African Commission and the European Commission, will work together. We will meet college-to-college meeting here in Brussels in spring. And at that time, the latest, we have to deliver a solution. This will be accompanied by WTO, Ngozi. And therefore, I like it always when a task is clear and defined. The task is set for the two commissions. The frame is clear. The goal is clear. We have to deliver. So Europe wants to remain Africa's first partner, a loyal partner, and we are moving right now from words to action. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. And may I invite President Moussa Faki to take the floor.
Merci. Il n'est toujours pas aisé de parler le dernier.
Thank you. Well, it's not easy to be last because you end up repeating what everyone else has already said. All I would say is that we had an innovative meeting, not just the content but the form as well. We had very good prepreration together, and from a methodological point of view that went very well. Contrary to our practices where we had 55 African states and 25 European countries all making speeches, 27 European countries all making speeches, but we decided it would be a better idea to have round tables so we could actually speak to one another very frankly. And I'm going to sum up our concerns here in two main categories. Financing peace doesn't mean just sending troops or funding for weapons. It means consolidating governance, justice, administration, and financing development in all aspects, education, health, infrastructures. Just over 2 years ago, we launched our continental free trade area, 30 million square meters, 1.3 billion inhabitants. Connecting countries, connecting regions is a problem. And if you want to have trade, well, you need to have infrastructure. So that is one of our priorities in Africa. Energy is one of our priorities. These are key issues. In Africa, more than 60% of our population is made up of young people. They need to be trained. We need vocational training. These young people, even those who have degrees, can't find a job. And unfortunately, we've seen that violent extremism in Sahel, Mozambique, terrorism, these activities are at the mercy of terrorists. Now, the outset, the ideology and funding came from elsewhere. They recruit there in Africa now. So it's very serious. And that is why, when we were talking to our European friends, I think we had to explain that we need to assess everything that's going on in Africa. The EU has provided 2.5 billion euros of funding for peace operations on the African continent. And that is quite remarkable. The UN has had peacekeepers here for more than 60 years. I'm not going to mention the countries, but some of these missions have been there for 60 years. And we've got to look at the whole issue of peacekeeping operations in Africa. What we really need now is to look at things clearly and take action where relevant. We discussed this. African countries are ready to mobilize people. We've done so. We have a multinational force, the Chad Basin, G5 Sahel, the 5 Sahel states, AMISOM, SADC also provided people for Mozambique. We can do that. We have people. In our African architecture, we can do that. We have people. But I think we have to change the way we look at things. And I think that we are currently looking at this together. And we need to proceed differently from in the past. Our friends and partners can help us strengthen and build capacity of the African forces. I don't think we should have a situation where we have French, German or Danish troops dying in Africa. We need technology, we need expertise, we need equipment, we need financing in order to tackle this terrible threat to our peace and stability. So these are the basic issues we looked at. We do have perhaps some differences of opinion, but I think we said that the two commissions will look at certain issues. The COVID-19 pandemic has really revealed certain weaknesses and fragility we have in our continent. We have 1.3 billion people, and we cannot sit around waiting until we can import vaccines. This is something we looked at. We have an African agency which has just been set up. We have Africa CDC, which works on pandemics. So we do have the instruments, and with the support of our friends, progressively these issues should be managed at a local level. In short, I would say that I've been present at 4 summits, African Union, EU summits, and I think this time is the only summit where we've really had a different kind of discussion, and we've had a frank discussion.
Un grand merci, Monsieur le Président. On va passer aux questions. Je commence avec AFP, Laurence Benhamou.
Laurence, please.
Il faut s'approcher.
Madame la Présidente, bonjour Messieurs les Présidents. Ma question portera sur la situation en Ukraine, parce que l'actualité l'impose. La situation semble très confuse, voire inquiétante à la frontière russe. Quelles sont les données de terrain dont vous disposez? Avez-vous confirmation de bombardement et envisagez-vous en ce cas d'activer des sanctions dans les prochains jours? Et Monsieur le Président, vous qui avez rencontré Vladimir Poutine récemment, est-ce que vous lui faites toujours confiance quand il parle d'un retrait de ses troupes? Ou partagez-vous l'analyse américaine sur, au contraire, un accroissement de la présence des soldats russes et d'une invasion, d'une attaque imminente? D'autant plus qu'à l'instant, le président Poutine a parlé d'une aggravation et les États-Unis ont également dénoncé une situation inquiétante aussi. Et j'ajoute une autre information qui vient de tomber, excusez-moi, vous parliez du terrorisme. Le Mali vient de demander à la France de retirer ses troupes sans délai, donc apparemment d'accélérer ce calendrier. Désolé pour la double question, merci.
Monsieur le Président.
Je vais répondre. Écoutez, la situation dans la zone russo-ukrainienne reste extrêmement préoccupante pour nous tous. Nous avons tenu à l'initiative du président Michel hier un conseil en la matière dans lequel nous avons collectivement réaffirmé notre unité, notre détermination à ce que nos principes, nos valeurs et l'intégrité territoriale de chacun soient respectés, et une volonté de continuer le dialogue pour avancer. En effet, la situation dans le Donbass est très préoccupante ces dernières heures. Il y a déjà eu apparemment plusieurs victimes. Je veux avant tout avoir une pensée pour les personnes et les familles qui ont été touchées. Et de manière très claire, il y a des actes qui se sont multipliés. Ces actes ne doivent cesser, ils contreviennent aux accords qui ont été pris, au cessez-le-feu respecté jusqu'alors et pour lequel l'ensemble des parties prenantes avaient réitéré encore récemment leur adhésion. Il appartient à l'ensemble de nos équipes, à l'OSCE, de faire toute la clarté sur les événements des dernières heures et des derniers jours. Par rapport à la deuxième question que vous avez posée, nous n'avons pas la preuve des désengagements militaires russes à ce stade. J'entends les déclarations du président Poutine, je salue les déclarations du président Poutine, mais je considère que si on veut être un partenaire fiable, il est toujours bon que les actes soient conformes aux déclarations, et donc nous voulons pouvoir avoir les éléments concrets qui les suivent. Dans ce contexte où la pression militaire militaire russe ne faiblit pas,
as regards the
où
pressure, military
les
pressure
déstabilisations
from
se
Russia,
multiplient,
or
où les bombardements
destabilizing acts increasing
dans
in
la zone de
number, or
contact
shelling
ont
in the
repris.
contact zone.
Premièrement,
Well, as
nous
regards
appelons
that question, firstly,
à la cessation de
we
ces actes
call for
militaires
a
et à la
ceasefire
désescalade
of such
rapide.
military actions and
Deuxièmement, à la reprise de
speedy
négociations
de-escalation.
constructives,
Secondly, that one
car
resume
nous continuons de
constructive
dire
dialogue,
que
because
c'est par
we
le dialogue
continue to believe
cette situation peut
that
trouver
dialogue
son
is
évolution.
the way to move this
Les prochaines
situation
heures donneront lieu
forward.
à une coordination
In the
étroite
coming hours, there will be
entre
close
alliés
cooperation
européens
between
et
the
américains
European allies and the
ici à la fin de
United
la journée.
States by the end of
Et
today.
évidemment, en suivant l'évolution des
Of course,
circonstances,
as the
nous apporterons à chaque
situation
fois
develops,
la réponse qui
we
convient.
will make the
Pour ma part,
appropriate
je considère
responses.
qu'il nous faut
In my view,
tous garder beaucoup de
we
calme.
must all keep
Nous avons été clairs
keep
sur
calm
notre
in this
unité,
situation. We have been very
sur ce
clear
que nous voulons.
about our united
J'ai
approach.
entendu les mots
We know what
du
we
président
want.
russe. Il faut
I've
maintenant que
heard
les
what
actes
the
suivent. Et
President
il nous
of
faut
Russia
travailler
said,
avec
but deeds
beaucoup de
must now
précision et
follow
d'engagement
words. We must
à une
continue
stabilisation puis une
to
désescalade
seek to stabilize
en lien
and
avec la Russie. C'est indispensable.
de-escalate the situation in
Vous avez fait
conjunction with Russia.
référence
That's
ensuite à la
essential.
déclaration lue par les
referred
autorités
to the
maliennes.
declaration
La France a annoncé
issued
hier,
by the
en lien avec
Malian authorities,
ses
France,
partenaires
yesterday,
européens
in
engagés,
agreement with its
la
European
réarticulation de
partners,
notre dispositif qui s'est fait après de
committed,
longues
we
semaines
decided to
de travail conjoint et de
restructure
consultation
our
avec les
deployment,
voisins africains et nos
this in
partenaires africains.
agreement with our African
Cette
partners
décision,
and Mali's
qui est le fruit d'une
neighbors,
évolution
this
de la
decision,
situation politique
which
et des
is
choix
due to the
souverains
developing
de
political
la junte en
situation
responsabilité
and the sovereign
au
choice
Mali,
by the junta
s'appliquera
in
donc.
power
Elle s'appliquera
in Mali.
simplement
This
en bon
will
ordre
apply
pour que nous continuions d'assurer pendant cette période la sécurité de la MINUSMA et la sécurité de toutes nos forces armées déployées aujourd'hui au Mali. Sécurité avec laquelle je ne transigerai pas une seule seconde. Je pense que tout ça doit se faire dans le respect, car depuis maintenant 9 ans, la France aide
Mali has been supporting, Mali has been training,
comme les armées de la région, que notre dispositif se réarticulera à quelques kilomètres de la frontière au Niger et que dans l'avenir, nous aurons toujours vocation à trouver les coopérations pour lutter contre le terrorisme. Et je souhaiterais que nul n'oublie dans la région que la priorité doit rester la lutte contre le terrorisme.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. I have a question for Vincent Giotta, who is connected virtually. Vincent, vous avez la parole.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. My question relates to the announcement this morning about the technology transfer hub that will transfer technology to 5 African countries. So the question that I have is the government, the EU Commission noted that they would support this with 40 million euros. And the French government also said that they would have 20 million euros with this. I wanted to find out some details concerning this financing. So how much of it is grants, how much of it is being given from private companies, and over what period of time this financing will be given?
Thank you. Madam President.
Yes, thank you. It is 40 million, as I said this morning, Commission, France, Germany, and Belgium. It is all grants, and it is immediately accessible.
That was a clear answer. Vince Chadwick, you're next. DevEx, please.
Yes, thank you. Vince Chadwick from DevEx. Okay. My question is to Emmanuel Macron. It was excellent to hear you say earlier that if we keep saying things are going well, no one will believe us and we'll look ridiculous. I was thinking about Abidjan a few years ago, 2017, a declaration that spoke of a paradigm shift, a new investment plan with a nice name, the External Investment Plan, small amount of European budget guarantees, 4 billion, and the promise to mobilise 44 billion by 2020. that didn't happen, and no one can say how much was mobilized. And I'd be interested to know what's new about this mechanism, because the declaration talks about existing mechanisms. So something on that. Now it's the global gateway. It's 150 billion. And in 2 days in this building, no one can tell me how that 150 billion comes together. No one. And it's actually the European Commission's policy not to say, because it's a mix of grants, loans, guarantees, private sector mobilization, and this is supposed to be a transparent offer. But it's not transparent. And so Europe again risks to look a bit ridiculous. And us as journalists, we can't in good faith put a story in our headline that says 150 billion.
Vince,
I
think you made your point.
No, so I'll come to my question.
What is your question?
Come to my question, because I know I asked Emmanuel Macron about this in December.
Please.
2 years ago, Madame von der Leyen's Commission proposed an extra 10 billion euros in budget guarantees as part of the Next Generation EU package for Africa. And European leaders cut that during the negotiations in July in the Council. And now we're here talking about a new package for Africa. But when you had the chance to put new money on the table, 10 billion euros, which is a lot in Brussels terms, it was cut in the middle of the night with no explanation. So how can we now take you at your word when you say there's a new élan for Africa, there's a new spirit? The 150 is not explained and the 10 billion is gone. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Sur le deuxième point, je pourrais vous répondre d'autant plus facilement que la France a plaidé pour le maintenir. Simplement, quand on a une discussion budgétaire dans le contexte qu'on connaît, et qu'il nous fallait finir le plan, en effet, de relance européen, on fait des compromis. Et donc oui, il y a beaucoup de lignes qui ont été coupées en parallèle et qui ont conduit à des réductions budgétaires. Maintenant, le paquet complet d'investissement de l'Europe, lui, a largement augmenté. Donc je comprends que vous regardiez une ligne. Ce que je vous invite à regarder, c'est combien aussi à travers le plan de relance européen, nous avons contribué au développement africain. Je vais y revenir. Mais vous avez totalement raison sur ce compromis budgétaire qui a été fait. Il a été trouvé, ça n'était pas notre position. On l'a accepté pour faire passer l'ensemble. Deuxième remarque par rapport à votre deuxième question. L'Europe, sachez le reconnaître, en juillet 2020, a quasiment doublé sa capacité budgétaire commune. Donc on peut regarder une ligne budgétaire, moi je préfère regarder l'ensemble. On a doublé notre capacité budgétaire à travers nos discussions. Parce qu'on a décidé, c'est une réalité. Si, parce qu'à travers ces capacités, qu'est-ce qu'on a aussi fait? L'Europe a créé des capacités de production de vaccins. Je vais vous dire très clairement, dans ces cas-là, je suis tout à fait prêt à ce qu'on ait une forme de grille de lecture africaine du budget européen. C'est comme ça qu'il faut faire. Mais vous regardez une dépense séchée. Moi, je vous dis, vous avez tout à fait raison, il y a eu un compromis. Le résultat de ça, c'est que ce n'est pas une ligne de 10 milliards. On a au fond étendu plusieurs dizaines de milliards de budget européen. Il a doublé. Dans le cadre de ce plan de relance, qu'est-ce qu'on a fait? Des actions communes. Par exemple, sur la production de vaccins. Grâce à ce plan de relance, l'Europe est devenue le premier continent, le premier espace au monde en termes de production de vaccins. Elle a pu être, et c'est matter of fact aussi, le seul espace qui n'a jamais mis d'interdiction à l'export. Et l'espace aujourd'hui qui a d'ores et déjà donné et exporté le plus de vaccins. Quel est le continent qui est le premier bénéficiaire? L'Afrique. N'aurait-il pas l'Europe? Je vous invite à regarder quelle est la réalité des transferts chinois et américains. Et donc, reconstitution dans ces cas-là en toute honnêteté, ce qui dans le budget européen de juillet 2020 est allé à l'Afrique, en don de doses, en capacité à produire. Donc voilà, il faut qu'on soit simplement honnête avec nous-mêmes. Vous avez raison qu'il y a toujours des choses qui sont très techniques et compliquées, mais dans ces cas-là, peut-être que c'est bon pour le débat collectif. Ayons une lecture du retour vers nos politiques africaines de ce qu'on peut faire à travers nos choix. Je suis sûr d'une chose, à la fin des fins, on a fait beaucoup plus que ce qu'on aurait fait s'il n'y avait pas eu la discussion de juillet 2020, et pour l'Europe et pour l'Afrique. Ensuite, il y a une vraie différence pour moi avec Abidjan. Vous avez tout à fait raison que l'agenda d'Abidjan, il a été percuté par la crise Covid. Et donc, c'est tout à fait vrai que 22 ans plus tard, on s'est retrouvé pris dans le cadre de nos exécutions. La Commission a changé, même s'il y a une continuité sur ces grands projets qui enjambent les échéances démocratiques, et on a été pris par la Covid. Donc nous n'avons pas délivré cet agenda. Maintenant, deuxième proposition de transparence, je souhaite qu'on puisse regarder ensemble qu'est-ce qui a été fait, qu'est-ce qui n'a pas été fait. Je suis pour la transparence, c'est comme ça qu'on pivote. Ce qui est sûr, c'est que pour avoir été présent à Abidjan, même si j'étais un nouvel entrant.
Moi,
la méthode ne m'avait pas satisfait. Parce que, comme l'a dit Moussa Faki très justement, tout le monde lisait son speech, il n'y avait pas de partage d'agenda. Là, je crois qu'on a eu une méthode dans la préparation. Et dans ce qu'on a fait, on voit très bien la liste des choses à faire. Et l'engagement qu'on a pris, ça c'est un vrai changement, c'est que tous les 6 mois, un rapport qui soit fait. Donc pour moi, regardez ce texte. Aujourd'hui, regardez le texte d'Abidjan, ils sont quand même très différents. Regardez la liste des infrastructures financées. Nous n'avions pas une telle liste à Abidjan. Et la méthode de suivi et de responsabilité et de transparence est aussi différente. Maintenant, je suis attaché comme vous à cela, donc je propose qu'on puisse travailler pour vous donner la pleine transparence sur d'abord ce qui a été fait dans le cadre du plan de relance européen pour l'Afrique et de la bonne exécution du dernier plan d'Abidjan, parce que c'est le moyen d'être crédible pour ce plan-là. Madame la Présidente. Vous me complétez ou me corrigez?
This is absolutely comprehensive. Indeed, the overall global gateway budget is 300 billion in the next 7 years. And of that, at least 150 billion is dedicated to Africa. The President has already described the difference between budget negotiations. This is money you don't have as long as the budget is not approved. And now we have an approved budget, so there can be a very clear programming that has taken place and then dedication to the different objectives. And the one here, the 150 billion in total for the African plan. I think what is different, indeed, is that we have a precise monitoring process now in place with a regular reporting and accountability. This puts pressure, a positive, constructive pressure on both sides to deliver. What planning is concerned, what construction of projects is concerned, what payments are concerned, and the check what is still available as finances and what has been allocated already in the proper manner. This has never been the case before. It's all very transparent, and I think this is an encouragement for all of us really to deliver.
Thank you, Madam President. I have one last question for Mas Moop here in the room. Please.
Merci beaucoup, Mas Moop, Sénégal.
Thank you very much.
Ma première question s'adresse au président du Sénégal et de l'Union africaine, M. Macky Sall. C'est une question qui peut paraître un peu décalée, mais je la pose quand même parce que tout Ouest africain et tout Sénégalais est susceptible de vous la poser. Ce sommet est une réussite, c'est vrai, mais néanmoins, il y a eu des absences. Le Mali,
this summit has been a success, but there have been Mali, Burkina Faso and Guinea have been absent and have not been invited. And that is not a pleasant sight.
Vous êtes le président de l'Union africaine. Vous avez une proximité avec ces pays que je viens de citer. Qu'est-ce que vous comptez faire très rapidement en utilisant votre leadership incontestable et la diplomatie sénégalaise n'a plus à faire ses preuves pour arriver à ce que ces pays-là qui sont exclus réintègrent la famille ouest-africaine. Ça, c'est votre rôle.
To the family of West African nations. That is your role.
C'est la seule manière de réintégrer ces pays et de faire en sorte que les sanctions,
as far as possible, that these countries are taken back on board, and that
ça, c'est ma première question qui est adressée à vous. Ma deuxième question s'adresse à M. Michel. C'est vrai, ce sommet a été très bien préparé. Et je pense qu'à partir de Bruxelles, nous avons vu l'engagement, l'effervescence et la visite de la présidente de la Commission à Dakar a été un temps fort. Elle n'est pas partie seule, elle est partie avec 5 commissaires.
Was a very strong message. She didn't go just in the room. She came with 5 commissioners, and quite a lot happened. And leaving all nationalism to one side.
Alors, je voudrais parler de la déclaration.
I would like to talk about the declaration. What do you propose to do in tangible terms to ensure that this very ambitious and generous declaration will be put into effect? We have seen all sorts of grand, impressive declarations, but what about the follow-up? I'd like to put that question to Mr. Michel. Thank you very much for putting your questions with great conviction and
enthusiasm. As regards the empty chairs at the Brussels summit, well, the chairs were already empty at Addis Ababa at the AU summit because we have our rules, and these rules mean that governance in our countries and access to power be through free, democratic and transparent elections. That is the African Charter of good governance. And this is the charter also of ECOWAS, which has condemned any unconstitutional taking of power in the form of a coup d'etat. If there is a coup d'etat, unconstitutional actions, then the country is automatically suspended. This, in the case of Mali, Guinea and Burkina Faso, they have been suspended from all bodies of the African Union and of ECOWAS until the constitutional order is properly returned. These are the rules. There have been sanctions because in Mali the coup has started in June 2020 and up to January 2022 there were no sanctions because only at the very beginning, because we agreed with the junta that there would be a transition process, and we accompanied that process until they failed to meet their own deadline of 18 months for the transition, when this was not respected. We therefore asked for a clear time frame for the elections, and this is when they offered 5 additional years. Of course, ECOWAS took its responsibilities. If we hadn't done that, what would have happened? Everything we're doing here in the UN and elsewhere would simply fall flat, because we would not talk about development and not talk about youth. We would have all our countries being destabilized by young people which have access to arms. These arms are needed to protect our borders, to protect the stability of our states, and to fight terrorism. But we are fighting on a day-to-day basis. And as of Monday, our ministers were in Bamako to work with the transition ministers on a reasonable transition process. And if that is agreed, if that is successful, we'll be able to lift the sanctions, which are a burden on the fraternal people of Mali. So the solution, we remain fully committed to that. Yesterday I asked Algeria and I asked ECOWAS to try to bring positions closer together. So as President of the African Union, if I need to go to Bamako, I will do so without hesitation to work with the Malian authorities. If we look at the departure of the European troops, what will the consequences be in terms of terrorism in Africa and the Sahel? In addition to the immediate aftermath, what will be the reaction of the United Nations? Who is going to ensure security? As our colleague has said, this was a peacekeeping mission with blue helmets who don't have the equipment or the mandate to do so. So with the logistical means and with intelligence, how is one, without that, how is one going to maintain the UN mission in Mali? And if there are no forces in Mali, how is the Malian army alone going to defend its territory? Whatever its wishes might be. So we have to see clearly what are the implications of the actions undertaken. We want to help our Malian friends, our Guinean friends, because we're going to have to deal with Guinea as well, and with Burkina Faso. Mali is about to take the wrong turn, and we have to find a similar approach with Burkina Faso and Guinea. So it is not surprising that these countries are not present in Brussels, but we hope that they will very soon return to the concert of nations. Just to point out that all the decisions of the African Union Security Council are with a clear mandate to the President of the African Union to maintain contacts with the sanctioned countries. I went to Accra to meet the president, then president of the African Union, and went to Bamako. I met the prime minister, the head of the junta, and I went to Dakar afterwards to report to the forthcoming president of the African Union, President Macky Sall. So, following this, we have maintained contacts with the Transition Authority on the feasibility of implementing a reasonable time frame. Before that, on the 5th of December, I went to Dakar, after which I went straight on to Conakry to meet the Transition Authority to discuss the conditions under which a time frame could be defined for return to normality. Now, if you say that suspension, that is to say that suspension does not mean an immediate and absolute break in contacts with the authorities, however illegitimate it may be. What is of interest to us, first and foremost, are the countries and their peoples, and countries which, in the case of Mali, is in a very difficult situation, is facing a very severe security crisis. So the President of the African Union, the President of the Commission are working day and night to move this agenda forward and with a view to restoring legality and the Constitution. Just a few brief words. This summit has set out to change the software and the relations between Europe and Africa and to show that this is what we've been doing, in fact, over recent months, even before the summit started here in Brussels. To take two examples, vaccine production. Just a few months ago, European leaders and African leaders observed when the COVID crisis struck that there was a clear vulnerability and a structural weakness which directly affected the African continent, the inability to produce vaccines in significant quantities. This was a real weak point, and it was dialogue and mutual trust and respect which has enabled us to change the state of affairs, to take up a new leadership approach, and we announce this here with 7 African countries to announce a mechanism for technology transfer. Another example, as has been pointed out, we had discussions on this very difficult issue of intellectual property, and even among Europeans there are diverging views as well. We were able to make real progress. We have a rendezvous clause in spring to ensure that Africa and Europe together can carry real weight in the UN family, in WTO and WHO. On security, we have seen over recent months with Mozambique, the starting point is a security dialogue and a common analysis of the situation and understanding that the best way of achieving this effective bilateral relationship, and with SADC to see how we can review this whole approach, speed things up, and make available the necessary means so that we can do something really useful on the ground in terms of restoring security and stability. Our discussions yesterday and today enable us to see how we as Europeans can feed into this process. And then effectively the final point, the follow-up of this mechanism, this is quite different from what has been done in the past, because we have a three-stage approach, as it were, the two commissions, the political leadership, heads of state and government, who are very much involved, and then the critical input, constructive critical input from civil societies in the Africa-Europe Foundation, which will, every 6 months, will have an opportunity to look at projects, look at what is being done, to see which ones are moving slowly and need to be speeded up, which ones are advancing well, and this to ensure that this new software actually leads to a new approach and to new tangible results.
This concludes our summit. Thank you again for joining us, and see you soon. Merci beaucoup. À très bientôt.
Alors, mon cher Moussa, on a du travail.